Geography of Andhra Pradesh. She's a literary critic and a satirist and has written a number of books and is quite familiar with the landscape of Telugu writers. When we were cobbling up our event in the late afternoon, I happened to ask her if she would like to speak about the woman writer of Andhra Pradesh, Mudhu Pulani, who wrote an interesting text called the Radhika Santavan. Mrinalini, in fact, had enacted as Mudhu Pulani, and as the discussion goes on, we'll talk more about it. I have Sadaf Saz here from Bangladesh, who is also a woman of many parts. She's an entrepreneur, poet, writer, also runs the Dhaka Hay Festival, and we have her here today as a poet. She's done a lovely book. Her latest book is called Sari Reams. I hope it is available on Amazon, but otherwise it's a lovely little book with a CD. I'm not trying to, I'm not her agent, so I'm not trying to sell the book to you, but it has some very poignant poetry, and I'm hoping that Sadaf will read a couple from here. I have Sushma Deshpande from Maharashtra, who's written on three interesting parallel trajectories. She's written on the women saints of Maharashtra. She's written on the folk performers like the Tamasha, and along with the women saints, she's also written about sex trafficking. So naturally, that makes Sushma a woman of many parts, as it were. Since I've got the mic with me, I think probably it's right, I mean, it's a bit embarrassing for me to introduce myself, but I'll introduce you through my work. Since it is first person feminine, there are lots of nuances or lots of meanings to these three words. First, what is the first? What are the different, I mean, is it pratham? Is it coming first? Is it a self-reflexive first? So there are multiple meanings to the first. Person, are we talking about our individual selves, about our own persona, or are we going to talk of the persona of who we are writing? And the feminine, as you know, has also got multiple meanings today in the present day LTGB, no, I'm not using it wrong, that's it, in the gay lesbian movement. So the feminine is a changing kind of identity which is there. But today all of us are going to speak from the point of our writing, from the point of how we write as women. I'm going to take two of my works which have been bordering almost on the taboo. As a woman, you are supposed to be writing in a particular way, number one. There can be women poets, there can be women musicians, there can be women dancers, there can be women writers as well, but women writers write on beautiful things. Women writers either write about their personal anguish, or if they are writing about their own sexuality, it's fine, but women do not write on what you call taboo subjects like the Kama Sutra. For a number of years, almost for the last 15 years, I have been writing on gender and sexuality within the Indian context in particular. It started actually with my doctoral work which was again a very interesting image, which was the image of the Ardhanarishwar, the Lord who is half woman. Now, Ardha Nari Ishwara is actually a Leela Murti of Shiva. Shiva is the primordial god. And if you look at traditional worship of Shiva, women are not allowed to really worship the Shivalingam in the way the men can. In certain cultural societies, the women are not even allowed to put the offering of milk on the Shivalinga. I remember when I had gone to Omkareshwar and there was the Maha Abhishekam of Shiva happening, and we were all sitting in this very small, intimate room watching the deity being washed and cleaned, and suddenly the Pandit says, "Aurtein sari aurtein ghungat dal le." So all of us, whether there were women wearing trousers, salwar kameez, saris, we all had to put a ghungat. And why did we have to put a ghungat? They said, Shivji nagna hai, to aurtein ghungat dalengi. So why should the men not wear ghungat? And there were certain women there, you know, younger women saying, oh, this is a way of exclusion, this is a way to keep us away. And if you also notice, a lot of Shiva Bhakti is done by the male priests, by male bhaktas. You will have a lot of bhakti with Krishna, with the Vaishnav theme. There is a lot of women saints also, and I think Sushma will be able to tell us more about that. But there are very few women who are actually doing the worship of Shiva. So it was interesting for me to write about the image of the Ardhanarishwar more so in a gender inclusive way. Because I think time has now come for all of us not to have strident feminist voices anymore. That day, it's passé, it's gone. I don't think feminism as a word today is as sensitive as gender inclusion. So when I started my study of this whole aspect of Shiva and Shakti, it was an eye-opener for me, because to see how in the worship, which was really a Shaivite worship, how the women had been almost excluded. And then when I was looking at the Shaks and I was seeing how the worshippers of the goddess Shakti were kind of including even the male, it was very interesting. And I had to look at a lot of texts which were not only Shak texts but also Tantric texts, and it opened a new vista. Therefore, when I was commissioned by Rowley Books in 1998 to write a book on Indian erotica, I picked it up with absolutely no hesitation, because I felt that through the erotic, the spiritual of India could be explained very well. And I wrote about it from the point of view of the Navarasas. And the Rasaraj of the Navaras is Shringar. So I wrote about the erotica from the aspect of Shringar. Having written that book, I started being greeted very differently in the society that I moved. And over a period of time, in another 4 or 5 years, they started saying, oh, here comes the erotica queen. Now, my work was not about erotica, it was about the aspect and the aesthetics of the erotic, which if you start reading pre-modern poetry, Sanskrit Kavya poetry, you will see so much of the erotic in the everyday. A couple of years after the Indian erotica, I was commissioned to writing actually the Kama Sutra. And once I wrote the Kama Sutra, in fact, there were very many people around me who were embarrassed actually to talk about the fact that I had actually written the Kama Sutra. I've just finished doing a major exhibition in Paris, which got over on the 11th of January. It was on for 3 months, and it was done in the city of love, as they say, Paris. And what was very interesting for me, I was there for a month when the show opened, and what was interesting for me was to see not just young people, but old people, middle-aged people, single people, old women coming to look at it because they had this great curiosity, because after the elephant, the yoga, snakes and babas, Kama Sutra is the biggest export out from India. So they actually came to see what it was about. And I had about 229 objects, sculptures, paintings, drawings, etc., and a lot of text which I had written about different aspects of life, including clips from films, and people came out all looking very happy. There were a lot of people who wrote about it, right from the Figaro to Le Monde to Libération, you name the papers. There were posters in every metro station, and it wasn't looked at as if it was a dirty little text. In fact, whenever people were talking to me or were asking me questions, I was feeling very proud of the fact that I had written this. But the minute I come back to India, again it is, oh, Kama Sutra. And they immediately start looking at me as if I'm writing pornography. So, you know, first person feminine, these were the two things I wanted to talk about. And I don't really want to hog the whole stage because I'm supposed to set the mood for the talk as we go along. But these are just some of my thoughts which I wanted to share with my fellow panelists and take the discussion further, because it is really about the practice of each one of us on what it means to explore the feminine. Unfortunately, we've been not being gender inclusive. We haven't got a male with us who would probably explore a hint of the feminine, because the creative part of the brain is the feminine side, as it is said, even in physiological manners and terminology. So I'm sorry about that. But let us have our, experiences of what it is to be feminine, what it is to be creative, what it is to be innovative, and what have been our experiences as women working in different areas, exploring the feminine. So, Sushma, would you now like to talk about a little bit about your work? And for all those who came here to expect a bit of performance with jazz, Sushma has also done some mono theatre, and I will ask her to give a small enactment of the work she's done.
Thank you, Alka. Basically, I am doing theatre for last, I think, at least 40 years. I write, I direct, and I act. The first performance which I wrote is about a social reformist lady, Savitribai Phule of Maharashtra, and I have done the script of her life, and the form is like that I become a Savitri, I do the makeup as a Savitri, and I talk to the today's audience, speak about the history, what we did in our life, and comment on today's society, what you are doing, we did in those days. That's the basically form of Savitri's performance. And for last 26 years, I am doing this performance. This 3rd January, I have completed 26 years, and I do the same performance in Hindi also. It's in Marathi and as well Hindi. After the Savitri is a first lady teacher of India. She was an illiterate lady. Her husband taught her, and she became a first lady teacher of India, something inspiring. Means as a woman, it's very inspiring. And so I get connected to her very fast. Another performance which I do is about a Tamasha folk artist, and Tamasha folk artist from Maharashtra in Sangeet Bari. Those women, because of the Zat Panchayat, they have their caste thing. And so these women, if they are going to do tamasha, they are not allowed to marry. But their business is flirting. They flirt with men through songs. So naturally, they have their relationship, they have their children, and they take care of family. They earn for family. They take care of family. And
so they are the new, what the new empowered woman today
they are
wants to be.
very empowered women. I always say, if you want to understand the meaning of empowerment, please see those women, because they know where people are exploiting me and where I am allowing them. And so their life is very exciting. I spent 3.5 years with them, and I wrote a script about their life, Tamasha Woman, and I always feel I become very rich with this all experience with Tamasha women also. Another play which I do is about women's saints. When I went through the poetry of those women's saints, which they haven't written, in Marathi we say that rachler, it is in their mind. So naturally, this poetry, when I read those poetry, I started reading those poetry, I felt strongly they are more than feminist women. The way they portray themselves, the way they speak about mukti directly. So their poetry is something fantastic, and every woman, she has used God Vithala as a tool of expression. Means for them, I felt strongly, Vitthal is not God for them, but it is a tool of expression. And if a woman is saying that I am going to meet Vitthal and going out, so family is okay because she is going to meet God. And like that she goes to Vitthal and she enjoys whatever her life. And that's something fantastic. Means it's hours and hours I can speak about the poetry of those women. So with the poetry, it's a musical drama, and so I took that through my play, particularly to the people. One play which I do is not only about the feminine factor, which is Chitragoshti. Sudhir Patwardhan is a very well-known painter.
Yes.
And my play is about his paintings. I was watching his one family fiction painting series, and when I watching that, I felt there is a theatre behind this every picture, and how the characters of his particularly picture, they came out and do theatre a little bit. That's the basic theme of Chitragoshti. And I spoke about my last play, which is a new play, Aidan, which is based on Dalit writer Urmila Pawar's autobiography. So it's the autobiography of Urmila Pawar, but I felt strongly it's a representative story of a rural poor girl from a low caste family, and how she faced the life on a caste level in a school, then even when she came to Mumbai, how she got educated, and then she how got connected to Dalit movement, and after that how she get connected to the feminist movement also, and how she grew up. So as a representative story, I have treated it like that. It's Urmila's writing, but I have edited the script. I haven't rewrote the script. So that is another very strong play which has now started, and it's going on. As you say that people, usually journalists ask me, you do only theatre with women? That is one question. And all my artists around me, those who are boys, they always argue this. You always do theatre with girls, and we don't get opportunity to work with you. So please do something with the boys. But I feel I am a woman, and so I get connected to the woman very fast. Like Tamasha Woman, I get connected, I could understand. And the same I did play with when sex workers. The sex workers, I could connect with them, their life, how they think, how they behave. And so it was also very rich experience for me. One play I have directed only of sex workers, but another play I wrote with them.
So and would you like to show one enactment of yours?
Enactment I can show about Savitri. Okay. I can't show, but here is a big wire with me. So I don't know.
It's long enough.
So should I show immediately?
Please. And then we'll move to the others and can. Huh? I don't know if, I think this is enough, or do you want a hand mic?
Hand mic can't be used.
Okay.
Savitri, as I told you, she is a first lady teacher, but she used to call her husband Jyotiba Phule Shetji, and I have used that portion, Shetji particularly, more as a theatre piece. And here I am going to show you how she started learning, and I think we will stop today a small portion, how her husband taught her how to write and other things. I don't think I can take it out. Savitri can't wear this, so I was taking it out.
Okay.
Only one
I
round for
think
each.
we should have you next.
In one round only we'll talk about everything.
We have you next, and we talk about your experiences.
Yeah, both Radhika, Santa, everything. We'll finish off in one round.
Shetji Nagarala gele. Shetji means Jyotiba Phule, and Savitri is telling you story. So Shetji Nagarala gele. नहीं, मुझे लगता है हम हिंदी में करेंगे.
Better.
शेठजी नगर चले गए. नगर में तो अब गोवंडे जी रहते थे. शिक्षा प्रसार ये एक ही धुन उनके मन पे सवार थी. गोवंडे जी उनको लेकर किसी पाठशाला में चले गए. वहां कोई फरार नाम की मैडम पाठशाला में सिखाती थी. ये गए पूछने क्या सिखाने का, कैसे सिखाने का. तो वो औरत कहने लगी, वुमेन यानी कि औरत घर का सेंटर यानी कि मध्य होती है. अगर औरत सीखेगी तो घर सीखेगा, नहीं तो नहीं. और आप है कि औरतों को सिखाते थक नहीं, ये बहुत बुरी बात है. बस यही बात उनके मन में घुस गई. शेठजी घर लौटे वही स्लेट पेंसिल किताब लेकर. मैं रोटी पकाकर सब्जी पकाकर चूल्हा साफ कर रही थी. इतने में वो आए, जोर जोर से पुकारने लगी. मैंने कहा आई आई, रोटी भी तैयार है सब्जी भी तैयार है. तो कहने लगे रोटी नहीं तुम ही चली आना. बया बया बया, क्या हुआ है शेठजी को? क्या देख देखा सिखाऊंगा. क्या? लिखना पढ़ना. अच्छा किस किस को? तुम्हें. क्या? सब कुछ. मुझे मुझे पढ़ना आएगा. आप पढ़ते हो वैसा, लिखना आएगा चेट जी ऐसा. शेठ जी हंसने ही लगे. उन्होंने स्लेट ली और उसके ऊपर लिखा शेठ जी और कहने लगे दोहराओ. मैंने कहा क्या ये मेरे पति है? कह रहे दोहराओ. क ख ग घ, क ख ग घ, त थ द ध, त थ द ध. डंडा मात्रा आकार उकार वही ध्यास. क को डंडा काका, क को डंडा काका, बबड हाथ पकड़. मैं बहुत थक गई थी. मैंने कहा शेठ जी हाथ पकड़ो. तो आंख दिखाने लगे. लिख रही हूँ चुपचाप. बेकम बे बेदुया चार. जानबूझकर गलत लिखा तो मेरा हाथ पकड़कर लिखवाने लगे. मैं उन्हीं की तरफ देख रही थी. क्या ये मेरे पति है या मेरे मास्टर जी? लगता था शेठ जी कहेंगे सौ हाथ दुखने लगेगा बंद भी करो. पर शेठ जी कहते थे सावित्री हाथ दुखने लगेगा तो भी चलेगा, पर इतना पूरा करना ही होगा. क्या ये मेरे पति है या मेरे मास्टर जी?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
क्योंकि मैं ऐसा कितना ही कर सकूंगी.
No. Thank you. We'll come back to the discussion. In the meanwhile, I'll now ask Sadaf to also explain or share with us her own practice as a poet. How do you write? And I see you have a whole host of poems, and there was one about the silence and the other about the women and going into the dark. One was a bit of a dark poem and the other was a more positive poem. So I thought if you'd read both those and then just explain the process of your writing. What is it, what drives you? Do you write as a poet or do you write as a woman?
Actually, I think that's a very interesting question because I guess a woman is part of who I am. And I think that, if you people always sort of ask you, can you bring social messages through writing? But I think there's something much more deeper there in the sense that, yes, activism is a way of protesting against certain deep injustices, but at the heart of all of that is the emotion that you feel behind it. And I've been involved with the women's movement for many years now in Bangladesh, and we have an organization called Naripokho, and we linked up with 550 organizations all over Bangladesh. And my mother always used to sort of say to me, oh, you're kind of involved with poor women. And I sort of said, no, I'm involved in the women's movement because of me, first and foremost. I don't want not to be able to do anything just because of the fact that I'm a woman. And that's where I've connected with women all over Bangladesh. And I remember, I grew up in the UK. And I remember once my cousin sort of said, oh, don't import all your sort of Western feminist ideas, our women are not like that. Well, we had a convention with heads of small women's organizations all over Bangladesh. And we talked on sort of 10 different topics, women in religion, women in culture, women in health. And there was such similarity in bonding, even with women who'd never even come to Dhaka before. And so I think from out of that, since then, what has happened is we did a lot of campaigns on violence against women and other causes, and I know I've worked with a lot of women on a lot of activism. But out of that, sometimes I've just felt so deeply about certain subjects which have just disturbed me, and poetry's been just a way to deal with it. And so.
But before you read your poetry, there was just a word which you used. I want to kind of explore that. Activism. Is there a dichotomy between the feminine and activism, or do they move hand in hand? How does the feminine come into the activist?
I don't see there a dichotomy at all, because I think it's a question of strategy, and there are certain sort of, I guess, certain times of each movement where different strategies have to be used. And sometimes it is being very strong and vocal and doing marches. Sometimes it is through plays and other creative approaches. Sometimes it's just reaching out to people and talking to them. Sometimes it's just connecting with men and connecting as humans. So I think it's basically when you're really looking at humanity and emotions and the fact we all need to be loved and respected and counted as people. And that's where I think the heart of it is.
Okay.
I'm going to read two poems. And this has basically come out of some of the work that I've been doing, but I felt so strongly about it, I just needed to put pen to paper just to deal with it myself. Mm-hmm. The sound of silence. The sound of silence, excruciatingly loud, deafening those who still remember that lilting walk, carefree talk, charming twinkle of sidelong glance, poignant dignity of stance, carrying her subtle style, an infectious smile, generous with her laughter, as it now echoes, in the sound of silence. So beautiful, so young, long, thick, shiny hair, oiled with care, to waste, can still taste blood in air, gushing from her throat, slashed rare, punctuating flashes, pierced those nearby, as visiting nightmares were hid under a silent shroud, never uttered aloud. She fought valiantly as he grabbed her waist down as she tried to break free, found she could not, while he violated her every orifice triumphantly. She was now his. She ran as torn, bloodied scraps fell. As she tripped, that sharp, sharp glint was held against her neck, used with a deliberate intent. She never stopped her screams until they finally died with her. His father, her father's brother, her chachato bhai, own family and kin, why reveal the shame and sin? Family ranks closed in. Her mother wept till her heart bled and begged when the police came to break it down, that wall of silence. In the bedroom, her mother's plea to her husband that her daughter would not sacrifice her right to find justice in death. It was not to be. Preserving face, allowing vicious violation, murder and rape to escape into the sound of silence.
क्या बात है?
That was actually a true story. And, you know, we worked with a women's organization at one of the villages, and they tried all they can to get the family to file a case, and they refused to.
And the mother?
And the mother had no say in the family.
That's normally the case, of course.
The next poem is called Women of the Night, and it was inspired by two incidents. One was a mentor of mine, a very vivacious, amazing woman with a lot of energy, who had breast cancer, and she had drawn a beautiful picture of women of the night. And at the same time, I had done a lot of work with sex workers, and I just could not believe the stigma that our society puts on them because of what they do. Because, well, the poem will speak for itself, why I think they're survivors. Women of the night. They laugh a cacophony of camaraderie, and you could mistake them for savvy 30-somethings, getting together, having a drink at day end, yet they are not in a bar, some way far. They huddle together in flickering light, ill-fitting heels, blouses bursting tight. Light powder, musty rose, attar, and lipstick red. Time for them to finally shed their attired facade. Some complain, others refrain, end of hard-working day, having a biri and a laugh, gossiping about their other halves. The one who brings her flowers so sweet, he who insists on his special treat. Another who beats her out of her wits, or confides to her his family twists, without the baggage of domesticity, playing the role of mother, lover, and whore in one. Some have regulars, lungis, safaris, frayed suits or vests, BO-stained shirting, bearing belly chests, rick pullers, bankers, pen pushers, or the like, stingy bucksheesh givers, those rich Gulshanites, college goers, cheating on paying their nights. Glitter, gaudy, bright colors entice, women hair grooming, picking their lice. They vent, chatter, and share mundane news, routine sex, police hassles, and landlord blues. Local gundas threaten with constant demands under the iron veil of the madam's high command. Noshto women, spoilt by reality, pierced by a sharp ferocity to the very edge of desperation. surviving by sheer fortitude against all odds. Scratch beneath the surface, you'll find deep loneliness hidden amidst buried horrors. Their trajectory, sealed by a tragic misstep of fate, maternal death, second wife, vicious gang rape. Lost in the city, seeking streets of gold. Tied up, kidnapped, sodomized and sold, outcast by those who needed to care, rejected by those who should have been there. With no safety net to catch as they fell, innate power from earth on hell, keeping them afloat while vilified, their basic rights repeatedly denied. These are survivors with no choice. We denigrate them as beneath us, without a voice, not taking time to see how it would be if circumstance and destiny had been doled out differently.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After such deep felt poetry, it is difficult to question you. We'll come back to you later. But I'll go on to Mrinalini, who's worked in a very different way, and I'm going to talk to her about a woman poet who wrote so strongly on sexuality that her work was the only work of a poet from Andhra to be banned by the English. So as a critic, how do you review that?
Thank you.
One, there is a woman who's writing this wonderful work which she's given a feminist title. Two, she's writing about a woman's sexuality. And three, she herself is a woman,
She's a
dancer, a poet,
courtesan. She was a
basically a
courtesan.
courtesan, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Actually, Alka, mine would be a continuation of what you were saying about your work. Writing about Kama Sutra or Ardhanarishwara, what it fetched you, the sort of epithets it fetched you. Something like that happened to this text, which is called Radhika Santvanam, that is pacifying Radha. Radhika is none other than Krishna's consort, Radha. And this book was written by Muddupalani in the 18th century. In 18th century, of course, obviously there were no objections to what she has written. It was very much admired and acclaimed book at the time when it was written. And this book is mostly about, because of the erotic descriptions in the book. It was actually about the love between Radha and Krishna, and how Krishna marries another girl, Ila, which causes jealousy in Radha. And actually this Ila is the protege of Radha. Radha teaches Ila, and where this erotica comes from is Radha teaches Ila how to please Krishna. Because she has been in a physical relationship with Krishna over a long period, she knows what pleases Krishna. And Radha, what she does, she takes this teenage girl, Ila, and teaches her how to please Krishna, what are the things she is supposed to do, how she is supposed to converse. And Ila learns from her, then Krishna comes and marries Ila, takes her away, and then suddenly Radhika realizes that what have I done? I have thrown Krishna away, he is now gone to that younger girl, much prettier girl than me, and naturally he won't come back because I have told her all the traits, secrets of love with Krishna. So she starts getting pangs of jealousy, she is very much worried that Krishna may not come back to her again, and that is what the whole story is about. So she is the teaching of Radha to Ila, it has long passages of erotica, and then again when Krishna comes back, obviously being Krishna, he knows who is unhappy where, he has 16,000 wives and he always knows what they want. So he knows that Radhika is unhappy, so he comes back and then he tries to pacify Radha and then make love to her again so that she gets back to her original mood and she know that all's well in this world because God is in his heaven. So that is the complete story. Because of the different passages between Ila and Radhika, the conversations between them, and Krishna and Ila, their relationship, and then again Krishna and Radha, these three phases, a lot of poems are described and how, and that is where she explores the physical relationship to the fullest extent from a female point of view. The whole thing is that it is explored from the female point of view. So that is what she did. And that point of time when she was with the Tanjavur kings, obviously she was very much respected and actually she was even, every award was given to her. She was rewarded and awarded then. But come 19th century and 20th century, we are with that Victorian morality. We had our social reform movement, and in this social reform movement, Veerashilingam, who is our first modern writer, and he led the social reform movement in Telugu, in Andhra Pradesh. He was very much against this text. He was saying that while we are turning to teach the girls to go to school, more or less, he was influenced by Pule actually. And they were every girl should go to school. We were teaching the girls to go to school, learn this exact values they should be learning to become better wives and better mothers and better citizens of the world. What do you mean by having a text like this, which is talking about a woman's sexuality? So he recommended to the government, the officials, that this text should be banned. So a social reformist actually recommended the ban of this text. So it was banned for many years. And it was actually another woman, another courtesan woman, a singer, a composer, Bengaluru Nagaratnamma. We have her biographies and autobiography, a remarkable woman from Bangalore. And she took up the cause, she was a Telugu, though based in Karnataka. She took up the cause of this text and she fought for it tooth and nail. After 40 years, she questioned all the social reformists. Similar texts of erotica were written by men at the same time, and later they are all in the market. She said, while you are not asking for a ban of those texts which are so explicit in their descriptions of the physical activity, why are you banning it? They said, it's not for a woman to write like this, it's okay for men. This woman has a very lucid style, she expresses herself very well, her imagery is wonderful, that's why it's more effective. See, she is a wonderful poet, even these people said she is a wonderful poet, but what is she writing? She is writing erotica, and that's why she will be very impressionable on the younger minds. So we want to ban it. It's not for a woman's place to write erotica. See, that was the reason Kandukuri gave, everybody gave the same reason. So Nagaratma fought for it, and she managed to get it after we got our first chief minister of erstwhile Andhra Pradesh, which was both Tamil Nadu, Andhra combined. Prakasham Pantulu was our chief minister. When he came to power only, then this ban was lifted. Ban was lifted on Muddupadani's Radhika Santwanam, and now we have texts of it reprinted and published. And after the feminist movement came, naturally this text was very much brought forward, and people were asked to read it and evaluate it. And right now, actually, it was translated into English by one Sandhya Moolchandani. Maybe you will get it somewhere. I was instrumental in that, and while she was translating, she was talking with me and consulting me in the translation. And my relationship, as she said, with that was on Hyderabad Doordarshan, we wanted one women poets, they wanted to shoot a women poets conclave, something like that. And Muddupadani's role was to be essayed by somebody. All the other women who were much better than me in performance, actually, I am not an actor, they were all much better than me. And they were all shying away from playing Muddupadani. So then I said, I'll take up Muddupadani, because even modern thinkers, writers, they themselves were poets. They were not very comfortable with enacting Muddupadani. So I took up Muddupadani and enacted that role for Doordarshan and also on stage twice or thrice. So that is my relationship with the text. But what I want to say is, she was the first Telugu writer to be banned. And it was a woman who was banned, and for the obvious reasons, as everybody was saying till now, if women wrote bhakti literature, it was fine, absolutely fine. We have no objection. You have a Mirabai, you have an Akkamahadevi, fine, no Janabai, even Lalder. We have many women poets who wrote about other things, but none of them wrote erotica. So once we talk about sexuality, it was not the thing for women to write. So that is the story of Radhika Santwanam, which we people are now trying forward. Now we are trying to get it translated into other texts, because all said and done, it's a wonderful Sringara Kavya. I mean, if you talk about Navarasas, and Sringara being the Rajarasa, and it is a wonderful Kavya because it has so much psychology in it. In fact, if you take Radhika's character, the psychology, the in-depth psychology of Radhika comes out very effectively.
We are always running short of time just when the discussion is gaining ground. I can see the fingers pointing at me. So I think what the panel has really done is, in sharing the work, brought out certain ideas and certain thoughts which each one of us, or the challenges which each one of us have felt in our work. As long as we are not challenging the patriarchal territories, the women, and they are being pretty and writing pretty things. It's like when you went to do research in the UK in the 60s, if you wrote a text on romantic art of the 16th century, it was all very well accepted. But if you enter an area where people are not comfortable, I think it's about comfort levels. So
I think, Alka, I can add something here. It's not just erotica. I myself write satires. I write social satires, political satires, and feminist satires. My feminist satires are okay, fine, because I am a female, I can write feminist satires. But when I write a political satire, people call up and tell me, you are writing like a man. I mean, political satire and social satire are the area of men. A feminist satire is okay, they can allow me. They very graciously allow me to write feminist satire. But when it's a political satire, I always encounter a question. As recent as 15 days back, somebody said, if I didn't know it was your name, I didn't see your name at the end of it, I would have thought it was written by a man, because women don't write political satires. So you see, this sort of mindset hasn't gone even now, let alone till today it hasn't gone, that sort of a manner.
But I think that doesn't stop the women from doing what they want to. So on that very positive note, I open the questions to the audience, which has been sitting very patiently and listening to us all. Yes. Can you get the mic there, please? Oh, you have it.
I thought I'll just introduce myself first, because my name is also Radhika, so this is a nice place to start. But I'm just wondering, as women, as poets, and who actively engage with your gender identities politically as well, how is it to negotiate that identity within the family or with your closest relations? Because traditionally that has been an active side of contestation within feminism as well. But it's hard to break free of the bonds of care and love and affection and assert yourself nevertheless. So what have your experiences been there?
Yeah. Luckily for me, I don't have any bitter experiences regarding that. When I write a feminist satire, actually my satires have been on men, because men usually say that women have these qualities: jealousy, gossiping nature, doing incessant shopping, and being dependent on men, or feeling insecure. All these are supposed to be womanly qualities. So when I wrote, I reversed the whole thing, subverted the whole thing. I showed in all my stories that men, if they go to shop, you can't stop them now. These are, you can check out with any of your brothers or husbands. Anyway, they take a long time. And they gossip much more than women. Men gossip much more than women. And I mean, I was subverting every quality that they have attributed, and the sort of things we say, when a woman is successful, she says that I am very happy because of the cooperation, and actually my husband encouraged me to write that. She has to say that. Well, I wrote a story where the woman said, I have been successful in spite of my husband. So I mean, this is the sort of stand when I took naturally with my colleagues, with my brothers. I did have some interaction. But because it was a satire and it was humorous, they could read it at least. They were reading it first because it was funny. Then it struck them, and then they started fighting with me. But now it has come, not only me, I am talking about all women writers there. Now they have come to a stage of acceptance. Many husbands of feminists don't read their books. That's the safest way for them. Better not to read. So if you read, you may be offended. So many of them don't read, others don't discuss. And other ladies do have some problems, but I think they've lost inhibition. They don't care any longer whether the family approves or not. They don't care.
No, I always say one thing about that, that in my family, my husband is quite supportive. But when journalists ask me, कि घर में क्या है, कैसा support है वगैरह, तो I always say कि है support. आपने पूछा तो सोचा मैंने कि support के बारे में सोचना चाहिए, और नहीं होता तो शायद उसको छोड़ती. काम नहीं छोड़ती मेरा. वो नहीं छोड़ती.
I think if you live in the subcontinent, there is a sort of self-censorship. And I think it is for both men and women.
Yeah.
But women have probably an extra burden, because if you're writing about sexuality or something very personal, you do a lot of self-censoring. And first, my mother's going to read it, or my mother-in-law is going to read it, or and I think you can only be start to really, I guess, get to the truth when you stop that, or you really try and minimize that, and that's a big challenge, I think. And I think what is, I wrote, I performed in the vagina monologues in Dhaka. And I remember when we brought it, I think 5 years ago, and I was so nervous. The younger women were very excited, but I just felt for so many years I've worked on these issues, and what if I get a fatwa on my head, or what if people start not respecting the work I do because I've done this, or what if my family get offended? But then I thought that I'm asking other women to talk about issues which are very difficult for them to talk about. So if I can't put myself beyond my comfort zone, then how can I ask other women to do things that are difficult for them? So that's why I did perform it. And then for me, it's been a sort of slow process of trying to stop censoring myself. And I think that the fear is that when you write something, somebody's going to say, "Oh, well, she did that then," or or she's a shameful person for doing that, or something like that. So I think we have to sort of, when we're fighting stigmas, we have to try and live our life like that, and try and fight them in our own lives as well before we expect anybody else to. And so I think that is a big challenge, and I still feel that I do self-censor a bit, but I'm getting better, I think.
Well, Radhika, for me, this situation was both good and bad. I'm glad I wrote the Kama Sutra when I did. Had I been younger, maybe I wouldn't know how to deal with it, because there were some people, the minute they saw that it was the Kama Sutra, a lot of men would sidle up to me and say, "So, tell us all about it," And I would just turn around and say, "Well, I'm not really a sexologist. I'm writing only about the text." And then the other thing is, I think it also stems from a great deal of ignorance, because a lot of people don't know that the Kama Sutra is not a text on sexual positions. It's a book which is collated and has 7 books to it. And the first book is on balance, and it is about, Kama, Dharma, Artha and Moksha. The second book is about sexual positions. The third book is about courtship. The fourth book is about marriage. The fifth book is how to seduce other men's wives. The sixth book is about courtesans. And the seventh book is about aphrodisiacs. So people really don't know. So now that I have done so much of detailed scholarship and read a lot of kavya poetry of deeply sensual nature, or even the Gatha Stapatis, the translation which is being done by Arvind Krishan Mehrotra, the absent traveler. I just give them readings to do. So I just turn it into into an academic exercise. But the thing is that the minute you become comfortable with your own work, and I think that comes only with age. And also a great deal of honesty with your work, it really doesn't matter, because the people who, whether it's family, friends, colleagues or associates, they also behave like that because they're not comfortable. Many of them don't know, and it comes from a site of great ignorance, I think. Because the minute you become sensitive, it's like earlier when I used to look at the third gender, or look at hijaras on the road, or the transgendered people, I used to get scared. And now that I've done so many testimonies, talked to so many of them, and I see what hard lives they have. They are the only people I give money to on the road. I never give a beggar, I never give a little child. But because I now know how they are also exploited, that I think it's all about knowledge and ignorance and sensitivities, age, maturity, and the minute you are comfortable and true to anything you do, nothing really matters. But it takes a long time to get there, a lot of heartache to get there. It's not easy.
That's the true thing, because when I started my Tamasha performance, in Tamasha performance, her business is flirting. So play start with this, that I say namaste, namaskar, hello, hi. And then I see a man and I say, itna hi kafi hai na. So it start with that.
Why don't you just quickly show a little tamasha, hello, hi, and then we can end with it.
It start with like that. Namaskar, Ram Ram Pavna, and tumasni, hello and hi. Zamla ka, ha? Barabar bola na, ha? And tumasni, एवढंच बस कसं आणि माझ्या आया बायांनो की बाईंनो तुमच्या ह्यो जीव कुर्बान and then she starts. I perform little bit Lavani in that. You have to perform because she is a tamasha dancer. So what started, men started coming for the performance to see me as a woman. Not for the life, but how I perform Lavani. And they started responding only for Lavani. Same seat, same man for the every performance. These things started. But you have to look it as a matter of fact. I started telling my all tamasha friends, देखो मेरा भी गिराइक शुरू हो गया. So how you look at that is the important thing. So if I started, oh वो लोग आते हैं मेरे तरफ देख रहे हैं, तो I am not comfortable with I am doing. So what she is saying is absolutely right. So while tamasha performance, I went through this, and now my family member asked me to stop this. कि ये सब हो रहा है तो बंद करो. हम सब हंसते थे उसके ऊपर.
I'll just end the panel, and I don't know about all of you, but I've enjoyed it a lot, listening to my panelists, seeing them perform, hearing their stories. Thank you for bringing in different kind of voice to it, which we all try to sweep under the carpet. And also to say that this is the kind of thing which Namita also told me that we want to do at the Literature Festival, have the mainstream and the subculture showing, and I think we managed to do that a lot with Lavani, with Tamasha, with Radhika Santavan, with Bangladesh, bringing in a cross culture, here me being part of the subcontinent. So I think we've managed to fulfill a lot of things in this session. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
We wish to thank Mrunalini, Sushma Deshpande, Sadaf and Alka Pandey for such a wonderful session. So this was the final session at Charbagh. Thank you all for